Daniel had barely disappeared through the revolving glass doors when the elderly concierge stepped directly into my path. "Excuse me," she said quietly. I smiled, assuming she wanted to hand me a room key or ask about our luggage. Instead, she looked past my shoulder toward the entrance, where my husband stood with his phone pressed tightly against his ear. "Is that your husband?" "Yes," I answered without hesitation. The warmth disappeared from her face. She leaned closer, lowering her voice until I could barely hear her. "You need to see this." My stomach tightened. Around us, guests laughed as bellhops rolled polished luggage carts across the marble floor. A pianist played softly from the lobby lounge. Everything looked beautiful. Yet the woman standing in front of me looked as though she had just witnessed something terrible. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "What are you talking about?" She glanced toward Daniel again before looking back at me. "I don't have much time. If you're truly his wife, please come with me." For a split second, I considered walking away. Daniel had always warned me not to trust strangers who inserted themselves into other people's marriages. But there was something in the concierge's eyes, not curiosity, not gossip. Regret. She turned without another word, and against every instinct telling me to call my husband first. I followed her. She led me through a quiet hallway behind the reception desk into a modest concierge office hidden away from the elegant lobby. Family photographs, retirement plaques, and decades of guest appreciation letters lined the walls. "I'm Margaret," she said softly. "I've worked here for 32 years. She closed the office door. "I have never interfered in a guest's marriage." She paused. "Until today." I stared at her. "My husband and I are celebrating our 8th anniversary," I said carefully. "We've been looking forward to this trip for months." Margaret nodded slowly. "I know." That answer stopped me cold. She sat in front of an aging desktop computer and typed a password from memory. Several archived guest files appeared on the screen. Before opening any of them, she turned toward me. "May I ask one question?" "Of course." "How long did you say you've been married?" 8 years. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, almost as if confirming something she had feared. Then she clicked another folder. A photograph filled the screen. My husband, smiling, standing arm in arm with another woman beneath the very resort's anniversary display. For a heartbeat, my mind refused to process what I was seeing. Then the office door suddenly swung open. "Luna," Daniel's voice called from the hallway. "Where are you?" Margaret reacted instantly. She clicked the monitor off before Daniel could see it. The office door opened another inch. "Luna," Daniel repeated with an uneasy laugh. "I've been looking everywhere." Margaret stood so naturally that no one would have guessed what had happened only seconds earlier. "Your wife was asking about local restaurants," she said with a pleasant smile that belonged perfectly behind a concierge desk. Daniel looked between us. "You could have texted me." "I only stepped away for a minute," I replied, forcing myself to smile. His eyes lingered on my face. For just a second, almost like he was checking whether I knew something. Then his expression softened. "Come on," he said, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "Let's enjoy our vacation." I nodded, but for the first time in 8 years. His touch didn't comfort me. It felt rehearsed. The elevator ride to our suite was unusually quiet. Daniel filled the silence by talking about the resort. "The spa looks incredible. We should book the sunset cruise. They upgraded our room." Normally, I would have been excited. Instead, I noticed something I had ignored for years. His phone never left his hand. Every vibration made him glance at the screen before quickly locking it again. When I casually asked who kept messaging him, he answered without looking up. "Just work." It was the same answer I had heard hundreds of times. Only now. It sounded practiced. Our suite overlooked the ocean. Floor to ceiling, windows framed the water in brilliant shades of blue. 8 years ago, I would have run straight to the balcony. Instead, I watched Daniel. He immediately placed his suitcase beside the desk instead of unpacking. Then he turned the phone face down. Not once. Twice. As if making absolutely certain I couldn't see the screen. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm just tired from the drive." He smiled. I figured. There was relief in his voice. Enough relief that my stomach tightened. While Daniel showered, memories I hadn't thought about in years began resurfacing one after another. The anniversary dinner he canceled because of a conference in Miami. The trade show in Arizona that somehow lasted an entire week. The luxury hotel reward emails that accidentally appeared on our shared credit card statement before he claimed they belonged to a client. The weekends when every phone call mysteriously went straight to voicemail. Each memory had seemed reasonable by itself. Now, they were lining up into something I couldn't ignore. When Daniel stepped out of the bathroom, dressed for dinner, he slipped his phone into his pocket before I could even glance at it. "I made us a reservation downstairs," he said cheerfully. "No unpacking tonight. We deserve one evening without stress." I forced another smile. "Sounds good." Dinner was elegant. Soft violin music drifted across the restaurant. Guests laughed over glasses of wine. Daniel seemed unusually attentive. He poured my drink, complimented my dress, reached for my hand several times. Anyone watching us would have believed we were the happiest couple in the room. Then his phone vibrated. He looked down. His expression changed for less than a second. "I'll be right back." He stood so quickly his chair nearly tipped. "Business?" I asked. He nodded. "Just 5 minutes." He disappeared toward the outdoor terrace. The moment he vanished through the doors, I opened my phone. "Luna, asterisk, can we meet?" I sent the message to the concierge, using the number Margaret had quietly slipped into my hand before we left her office. Less than 30 seconds later, a reply appeared. "Margaret, asterisk, come now, he's gone." Margaret was already waiting when I returned to the concierge office. Without speaking, she reached into a locked cabinet. She removed an old leather photo album. Its edges were worn from years of use. She carefully opened it. Inside was a professionally printed anniversary photograph. Daniel stood beneath the resort's floral arch. His arm rested comfortably around another woman. Both of them were laughing. The date printed beneath, the image made my heart stop. It was the exact weekend Daniel had kissed me goodbye at the airport and promised to call after landing in Singapore for an international conference. I reached toward the photograph with trembling fingers. There has to be some explanation. Margaret slowly looked up. "There is." She paused. "But that isn't the worst part." I swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" She gently closed the album. Then she met my eyes. "I've seen them here every single year." The next morning, Luna barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Daniel smiling beside the woman in the photograph. Not a stranger. Not a coworker. A woman standing beneath an anniversary banner. When sunlight spilled across the suite, Daniel stretched casually and smiled. "Breakfast." His voice sounded exactly the way it always had. Warm. Relaxed. Comforting. For years, that voice had been enough to erase every doubt she ever had. Today, it only reminded her how convincing he could be. "I'll meet you downstairs," she said. He studied her for a moment. "You sure you're okay?" "I'm fine." Another lie. The first of many. Instead of going directly to the restaurant, Luna slipped into Margaret's office one last time. Margaret had already organized several folders. I made copies, she said. You'll want these. Inside were concierge welcome cards, anniversary dinner reservations, spa bookings, limousine requests, and handwritten notes from staff assigned to Daniel's previous visits. Every reservation carried the same two names: Daniel Carter and Emily Brooks. Luna slowly turned another page. Fresh flowers requested every February. Champagne waiting inside the suite. Private beach dinners. Personalized anniversary cakes. The hotel hadn't guessed. The staff had believed they were serving a happily married couple. Margaret looked down. We treat returning guests like family. Luna quietly gathered every document. You've done more than enough. Margaret gently touched her arm. No. I should have spoken sooner. Daniel noticed the change immediately. During breakfast, he kept watching Luna instead of eating. You've been disappearing a lot. I've just been walking around. By yourself. She nodded. You don't usually do that. I guess people change. He forced a laugh. I hope not too much. For the first time in their marriage. Luna answered his smile with silence. Halfway through breakfast, Daniel suddenly looked toward the entrance. His expression brightened. He stood so quickly, his napkin fell onto the floor. I'll be right back. But he never moved. Someone had just entered the restaurant. Luna instinctively followed his gaze. Her heartbeat stopped. The woman from the anniversary photograph walked confidently into the dining room. She wore sunglasses and carried herself like someone who had visited the resort many times before. The hostess greeted her warmly. Welcome back, Ms. Brooks. We're happy to see you again. Emily smiled. It's good to be back. Then, she saw Daniel. Her entire face lit up. She walked straight toward him. Daniel. She smiled naturally, before noticing Luna sitting only inches away. Her smile slowly disappeared. She looked back at Daniel, then at Luna, then back again. Confusion replaced excitement. She frowned. Daniel. Her voice became cautious. Who is she? Several nearby guests stopped eating. Forks paused halfway to mouths. The neighboring tables quietly watched. Daniel's face drained of color. Without answering Emily, he turned toward Luna. She's misunderstanding the situation. Emily stared at him. What situation? Daniel forced a laugh that fooled no one. Emily is a business client. Emily blinked. A client. You told me your wife died 6 years ago. The room fell completely silent. Luna didn't move. She simply watched Daniel. For the first time, he had no prepared answer. Guests began whispering. The restaurant manager looked toward the growing crowd. Daniel reached for Luna's hand. Luna, don't listen. Before he could finish, Margaret calmly walked into the dining room carrying an old leather registry. Without raising her voice, she placed it directly in front of Daniel. The worn pages opened to a reservation dated exactly 1 year earlier. The elegant handwritten entry read, Welcome back, Mr. Daniel Carter and Mrs. Emily Carter. Asterisk, celebrating your 4th wedding anniversary. Daniel stared at the page. Neither woman said a word. Neither needed to. Every guest surrounding the table had already read it. The leather registry sat open on the table. No one reached for it. No one needed to. The elegant handwriting was impossible to misunderstand. Welcome back, Mr. Daniel Carter and Mrs. Emily Carter. Asterisk, celebrating your 4th wedding anniversary. The conversations around the restaurant faded into silence. Guests openly stared. Even the servers stopped moving. Daniel swallowed hard. This isn't what it looks like. Emily looked at him in disbelief. What exactly does it look like to you? He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Margaret stepped forward with remarkable calm. "I've worked at this resort for over 3 decades," she said evenly. "I know many of our returning guests by name." She looked directly at Daniel. "And I remember yours." Daniel finally found his voice. "This is an administrative mistake." Margaret nodded once. "I expected you to say that." She reached into the leather folder again. One by one, she placed several documents onto the breakfast table. Welcome letters, spa itineraries, private dining confirmations, anniversary packages. Every page carried Daniel's signature. Every reservation listed Emily as his wife. The dates stretched back 4 consecutive years. Daniel's shoulders visibly sagged. Emily slowly picked up one of the letters. Her hands began trembling. "You kept these?" Margaret answered quietly. "We archive personalized concierge records for returning VIP guests." Emily looked back at Daniel. "You told me your company always requested this resort." He didn't answer. Luna finally spoke. "When did you meet him?" Emily looked confused. 5 years ago." Luna's chest tightened. "We've been married for 8. Emily's face slowly drained of color. "No." She turned toward Daniel. "No. You said your wife passed away after an illness." Daniel rubbed both hands across his face. "Emily, don't." Her voice cracked. "Don't say my name." The two women moved away from the growing crowd into a private meeting room arranged by hotel management. Daniel tried following them. The restaurant manager blocked his path. "I think they need a moment without you, sir." For the first time all morning, Daniel had nowhere to go. Inside the meeting room, silence lingered for nearly a minute. Then Emily quietly asked, "When was your anniversary?" Luna answered, "February 14th. Emily stared. "Our anniversary dinners were always the week after Valentine's Day." Luna slowly opened the copies Margaret had made. Emily opened photographs saved on her phone. The timelines began matching with frightening precision. Every so-called overseas conference, every canceled holiday, every unavailable weekend. The same excuses, the same destinations, the same promises. Daniel hadn't been improvising. He had been repeating the same script. Emily unlocked her banking app. "He asked me to invest in our future." Luna immediately opened her own account. So did mine. The numbers were different. The descriptions were nearly identical. Investment contribution, property expansion, business growth. Luna immediately called her attorney. "I'm sending you several transaction histories." Her attorney reviewed the documents while they remained on speakerphone. A long silence followed. Then he finally spoke. "Luna." His tone had changed completely. "This isn't just about infidelity anymore." "What do you mean?" "I recognize several of these companies." Luna exchanged a nervous glance with Emily. "They're not operating businesses." "What are they?" "They're limited liability companies created to purchase luxury real estate." Emily looked stunned. "But Daniel told me we were buying vacation homes together." Luna whispered. "He told me those transfers were financing his company's expansion." Another pause. The attorney typed rapidly. Then another document appeared in Luna's email. Property ownership records, one after another. Luxury condominiums, vacation villas, investment properties, each purchased through one of the LLCs, each funded with money transferred from Luna's joint marital account. Daniel's name appeared on every filing. Emily's appeared beside several of them. Neither woman had known the other existed. Neither understood the full financial picture. Until now. Outside the meeting room, Daniel argued with hotel security, insisting he needed to leave immediately. Hotel management refused. "We've received a formal request from Mrs. Carter's attorney," the general manager said. "All concierge archives, reservation histories, and guest documentation have been secured." Daniel stopped struggling. For the first time, he realized the evidence wasn't sitting in front of Luna anymore. It was already in the hands of her attorney. But one question still remained. What, exactly, had Daniel spent years building with Luna's money? Daniel sat alone in a private conference room overlooking the resort gardens. For the first time since Luna had met him, there was no confidence in his posture. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His phone buzzed repeatedly across the polished table. He ignored every call. Outside the room, 2 hotel managers quietly organized copies of reservation histories, while Luna's attorney coordinated with them by phone. The concierge records were no longer memories. They had become evidence. Luna sat across from Emily in another room. Neither woman spoke for several minutes. Emily finally broke the silence. "I don't know whether to apologize or ask you to hate me." Luna slowly shook her head. "You believed him." Emily nodded. "I thought I was his wife." "So did I." Those 4 words settled heavily between them. For years, they had unknowingly lived parallel lives, celebrating different anniversaries, believing different promises, trusting the same man. Neither had betrayed the other. They had both been betrayed by Daniel. Luna's attorney called again. "I've completed a preliminary review." She placed the call on speaker. The LLCs were formed over the last 4 years. Every property purchase was funded using transfers from your marital accounts. Luna looked down. "So my money bought those properties?" "Yes. But there's something even more important." He paused. Daniel listed himself as married on several financing documents. Emily frowned. "To me?" "No." The attorney sighed. "To Luna." Emily looked confused. "Then how did he purchase property with me?" "He represented you as his business partner, while simultaneously telling lenders the funds belonged to marital investments." Luna slowly understood. "He used my financial credibility to build a completely separate life." "Exactly." By late afternoon, Daniel requested to speak with both women together. Luna agreed. Not because she wanted answers. Because she wanted him to understand there was nothing left to hide. Daniel entered quietly. His confident smile was gone. "I made mistakes." Emily laughed bitterly. "Mistakes? You told me your wife died." He looked toward Luna. "I never wanted this to happen." Luna remained calm. "You planned it for years." "I was going to fix everything." "When?" she asked. "Before buying another property. Before another anniversary. Before another lie." Daniel couldn't answer. Emily removed the engagement ring Daniel had given her. She placed it gently on the table. "I built my future around someone who never existed." Without another word, she walked out. Daniel reached after her. She never looked back. He turned toward Luna instead. "I'm begging you. We can still save our marriage." Luna quietly opened a folder. Inside were copies of every anniversary reservation, every property purchase, every transfer, every photograph. She slid them across the table. "You didn't destroy our marriage today. You destroyed it every time you chose another lie." Daniel lowered his head. For the first time, he had nothing left to defend. Within days, Luna filed for divorce. Her attorney obtained emergency court orders, freezing jointly held assets before Daniel could transfer additional funds. The luxury properties became central evidence in the proceedings. Several lenders opened internal reviews after discovering conflicting marital disclosures on financing applications. Daniel's employer also launched an investigation into years of travel reimbursements that had been submitted as business expenses while coinciding with his personal resort stays. Pending the outcome, he was suspended from his executive position. The reputation he had spent years building unraveled in a matter of weeks. Emily cooperated fully with investigators. She voluntarily turned over contracts, emails, bank transfers, and messages Daniel had sent her over the years. Instead of becoming enemies, she and Luna chose honesty. Neither wanted revenge. They wanted the truth documented. That decision strengthened both of their cases. Months later, the divorce was finalized. The court awarded Luna a favorable financial settlement after tracing the marital funds used to acquire the investment properties. Several assets were ordered sold, while others were transferred as part of the settlement. Daniel lost control of the portfolio he had secretly built. His carefully constructed double life collapsed under the weight of records he never imagined anyone would preserve. One quiet afternoon, Luna returned to the resort. Not to relive the betrayal. To thank the woman who had refused to stay silent. Margaret was standing behind the concierge desk, greeting arriving guests with the same gentle smile. When she saw Luna, she walked around the counter. "I've been hoping you'd come back." Luna embraced her. "You changed my life." Margaret smiled softly. "I only showed you the truth." Luna glanced across the elegant lobby where their story had begun. "I almost walked past you that day." Margaret nodded. "I know. I've watched many people ignore what they didn't want to believe." She gently squeezed Luna's hand. "But the truth has a way of waiting until we're finally ready to see it." Luna stepped outside into the warm afternoon sun. Months earlier, she had arrived believing she was celebrating 8 years of marriage. Now she was leaving with something far more valuable. Her freedom. She walked toward her car without looking back. For the first time in years, every step she took belonged entirely to her future, not to the life someone else had built on deception.